We're standing here in front of one of the most historic houses in the northwest of Ireland, Prehen House.
The atmosphere in this house, I never get bored walking or driving up the driveway and looking at the front of the house.
All of the great houses around this part of the world were all built around about 1740, a building which we should all be proud of in this city.
Built in 1745, it was designed and built by an architect called Michael Priestley, a very busy architect of the time.
While what we see here is 1740, there's a lot more history and archaeology on this site. So a very elegant piece of architecture, 2 stories over a vaulted basement. It's all about proportions. The size of the window panes reflect the size of the windows, which reflects then the size of the entrance facade. So it's all about proportions and mathematical relationships, reflects the kind of the harmony and the elegance of the building. If you look then up on the top, you can see some eagles and some urns. You always see in houses like this how the architects thought about the sunlight rising in the east and then coming around then to the west then during the day. So you're getting the evening sun then coming in through the dining room windows, and I'm sure it must be a lovely experience.
Prehen was also very much the place or the abode of the famous Knox family, who occupied the premises here for approximately 250 years. Colonel Knox, as he referred to, he actually died in 1910, and the estate then went into the ownership of his grandson. And the grandson was married into a German family. And unfortunately then, war started because there was a German association in the family. The British government sequestrated the whole property, the house, the lands, and the actual Knox family, what was remained of the Knox family, never got a stick of furniture back again at all. They got nothing back. The land and the house, it was all auctioned off in the 1920s. And in the 1970s, the house came up for sale, and fortunately enough, it was bought by Carla and Julian Peck. The great thing that happened that in 2004, we formed the Friends of Prehen House group, and as a result of that, the house was opened to the public in 2004. And the very first weekend we opened, we had 600 visitors the first weekend. There was such a great interest, and Prehen House became one of the most important visitor attractions in Derry. It's not exactly looking its total best at the moment, almost a kind of a shadow of its former self. One of the most important rooms would be the library. This was originally the dining room. It's very far away from the kitchens, but they wanted their dining area to be well away from the smells and the noise of the kitchens. And one of the main features of this room, that's an original Georgian fireplace that you're looking at there, just very, very rare. Around the top and on end of the bookshelves, that was all taken from a place called Coachmans House. This chandelier, that was gifted again to Carla by Sir Alfred Chester Beatty. This library was one of the best libraries of books in the north of Ireland. Mary Ann Knox, tragic or unfortunate relationship with Half-Hang McNaughton. What happened there was John McNaughton apparently got into some financial difficulties. Andrew Knox offered him a post here as estate manager. McNaughton, who was an awful lot older than young Mary Ann, developed a relationship with her and tricked her into a fake type marriage. And as a result of that, he was banned from the actual property. As you can see from this room, it's known as the post office tree field because there used to be a big tree down in that field with a big cavity in it. And apparently the story is that Mary Ann would have left her little notes for McNaughton, and McNaughton would have left his letters and notes in the tree, and they were brought up. So that was kind of that's why it's called the post office tree field. John McNaughton continued to stalk Mary Ann. They heard that she was actually travelling to Dublin with her father, and at Clough they were attacked, and unfortunately Mary Ann was shot. MacNaughton then was eventually caught, and he was taken to the old Lifford Courthouse. When it came to the actual hanging, the rope broke at the first attempt, and for some reason or other at that time, if the rope broke, it indicated that the person was possibly, he wasn't as guilty as he had been found. He could have been released, but he climbed back up and he said, "No, I don't want to be known as Half-Hanged MacNaughton." And he put the rope around his neck and was eventually hanged. But the strange thing is, to this very day, he is still known as Half-Hanged MacNaughton. Very important artefact which is still in the house to this day, and that is the Knox family Bible, apparently dating back to 1710. One of the oldest Bibles actually still in existence in Ireland. There's some actual writing, some family information, and it's reputed to be the actual writing, the actual script of Mary Ann Knox's mother. The old colonel, as they referred to him, he was a very well-travelled person, would have collected various artefacts and various items. Some of the actual furnishings are still here in the background. This room had a bit of an eeriness about it, but because of some of the stuff they had displayed in it. In one of his travels, he collected a collection of shrunken skulls and all that sort of thing. All the old houses of these families, they had their actual music room where they had their little gatherings and all of that sort of thing. One of the main features in the room at the moment is this piano. Apparently the story is that only 3 of those were actually manufactured. So it's a very authentic piece of furniture altogether. And in this room as well, we have the wheel of the old Knox coach, which was sent to us from Hamburg. And we also have 2 panels here of the coach. That chandelier was actually gifted to Carla Peck by one of the Mitford girls. Carla had lots of friends, and lots of items at the house were actually gifted to her by certain well-known families. This is the room that would have been recently used by Colin Peck as his office. One item I would like to draw your attention to in this room is actually this painting of Rory Peck, and that was Rory, a painting of Rory in Afghanistan that was actually done by his mother, Carla, who was a very good artist. In this room as well, we have the actual coat of arms, or the crest of the Knox family. It actually means force and virtue.
It's a very much an elegant Georgian plan, and I suppose what you don't see when you walk in the front door is a staircase. The staircase is tucked away. What you have is an entrance hall, and the staircase is behind a door. Whereas if you think of most Victorian houses that you would know, you would walk in and you would see a kind of a long hallway with a big bulbous staircase, and it would be dark mahogany, and it would be very much on display as you came through the door.
This was the stairway that was used by the actual family. There's another stairway, again, just to the left of this, and that was actually used by the servants at the time. This portrait here is of Bishop Knox. He was one of the first of the Knoxes to arrive in this Derry, northwest area. And as I say, he was quite an important figure in Derry of that time. There's a painting here halfway up the stairway. Is reputed to have been painted by a very famous artist called Gilbert White. He did portraits of 4 different American presidents in his time. She told me a story one time. She said, "I just decided to brighten the room up by doing paintings of Vesuvius and the Bay of Naples and all of that sort of thing." And that was her way of actually brightening the room up for herself. Is this the bed here, the actual bedroom suite? You have this sleigh bed. Very unusual to have a bedroom suite of the age that it is, all matching. So it's very valuable from that point of view, and very, very unique. This was one of the main rooms of the house. This was actually referred to as the upstairs drawing room. where the family would have gathered in the evenings after their evening meal. And as I say, you can see the priestly design actually, and the actual architecture kind of come into play here, where you have the vaulted ceiling, and the nice little fireplace. And if you look at the doors too, these doors and the door posts have these kind of what's called lugs at each side, that it indicates yes, Georgian architecture as well. This room we're in at the moment actually is it's known as the number one four-poster room because of the fantastic four-poster bed. Again, a very, very unique piece of furniture. If you're looking out at the front from this window here, you're looking out at the front of the house and the front lawn. And at one stage, the family would have had an actual full view right in towards the city. They could see the spires of St. Columns and all of that. The other window in the house actually gives you a view down over the river, because at one stage this whole estate, the whole area around the house was all landscaped. They had lovely sort of kitchen gardens, ornamental gardens and all of that sort of thing. And as you can see as well, there's some fantastic pieces of furniture in this room as well, with all this special inlay. Prehen House always had the name of being, it was the haunted house of the area. And there are lots of stories about the hauntings and about the spookiness of the place and what was happening to people on different experiences. But this room in particular is actually known as the haunted room. And strange enough, today we've had to pause the actual recording because everything stopped.
The rumours that Prehen House is haunted, I can categorically confirm that's not rumour. There is a presence in this house. I wouldn't say it was haunted, but there is a presence. I've had 2 or 3 experiences here. Nothing evil in the house. It was a rather pleasant experience after the initial shock, of course.
And as you can see, again, we have a kind of a bed in what's called the sleigh bed style, with a lot of actual sort of very, very detailed marquetry design on the bed. We have the matching sort of, it's unfair to call it a wardrobe, it's much more, it is much better design than what the normal wardrobe as we would know it. And again, that's got the marquetry design in it. The chairs are matching, the little table is matching, the little desk, the bureau, all. And again, very, very unusual to get a full set of matching bedroom furniture or bedroom suites of this sort. People always kind of remark that there's a kind of a presence, a coldness and a presence of some sort in this room. Apparently the room that we just left earlier, that was actually the room that was occupied by the mother and father in the Knox family. There was an actual door leading from their room into this particular room, which is known as the children's room. And you can see here we have this nice little sort of children's bed. We have the little sort of the bathtub that would have been used by the young children. Some people also call this the Empress Josephine room. Carol, when they bought this property, they had to do a lot of what's called shopping around for furnishings. They tried to recover some of the furnishings that had been in the house at the time the Knox family occupied the property. But they also bought additional furnishings, and the story is that apparently that piece of furniture there came from the palace of the Empress Josephine. Another lovely four-poster bed in this room, and some very nice pieces of furniture as well. As you can see here, if you look out the window, there's a building there And that actual building, it's known as the Old Barn at the moment, but it was one of the actual, what's called the vernacular buildings of the site at the time. That building that we're looking at the moment dates back to 1622. So one of the oldest buildings in the northwest of Ireland. And this was the stairs that were used by the servants of the time. The family had their stairway, and the servants had to use a separate staircase coming up and down to attend to the family and all of that sort of thing. That's an actual painting of Julian Peck, Colin and Rory Peck's father. And across the hallway here, we have a painting of Winifred Knox, who married Sir James Peck. She became Winifred Peck. She was a very famous author of her time. That's a painting of Sir James Peck that we're looking at the moment. That's the grandfather. That's a photograph there of Ronald Knox, and he did the translation of the Bible from the old Vulgate Hebrew version. This is the more recent dining room area that would have been used by the Peck family. And as you can see, this very nice oval table with the nice set of chairs around. But one of the main features of this room is the actual paintings right around the walls, starting from left to right. There's a whole narrative, a whole story based on Greek, Roman mythology of the time. This was another of her paintings there. That's a copy of one of the seatings in, I think it's Kensington Palace. For a Georgian type of house, over the centuries it was kind of upgraded in certain ways, and even in the time of the Knoxes, it was quite good facilities in some ways, and facilities, utilities you might say. They had their own tank, they had water coming into the house, they had a sewage system and a very good drainage system as well as that. Everything's very well designed from day one of the house being built. It was previously well filled and sort of well equipped with all different kitchen equipment, old style kitchen equipment, but a lot of that is gone unfortunately now. But it gives you an idea of the type of the kitchen, and see the old sink units that we have here, and all of that, and the old kind of the old fireplace, where it was kind of an ingle-nook type fireplace, but we have now got the actual stove in there. At one stage there was lovely ornamentation in this, and the little sort of the pear trees growing up at the sides of the walls. And always a good crop of pears every year there. And on the outside of that wall, we have the farmyard area and the stable yard.
I suppose an unusual thing about this house is there is a church in the basement. Now that's a more recent addition.
This chapel was actually dedicated to Rory Peck, who was killed in Moscow in 1993. He was doing reporting and doing filming. If you look at the actual the vaulted ceilings here, and the actual quality, the quality of the workmanship that's here, some of this workmanship was carried out in 1745. And it's worth noting the actual quality of the workmanship that went into the building of this house. If it had not been for Carla and Julian coming here in the 1970s, this house would not have even existed. It was in very, very, very bad state of repair. They had experience of doing restoration of a large house in the Dublin area. Just to have a quick look in here, it's a wee bit of a pitiful sight at the moment, but this was actually a little Greek Orthodox chapel. Some member of the family, I think Julia in particular, was very interested in the Greek Orthodox tradition.
So then you have fine vaulted basements as well, so brickwork arches in the basement. And that would be fairly typical of a house of this age. You would often find kind of cellars where the wine would be kept, and you would find kind of individual pockets where the wine would be put in the cellars, and that certainly would have been here in this house too.
At one stage, they had a very, very expensive range of very, very old traditional wines here and stored at one stage. Down in this area, we had the Santa's Grotto. The children coming in were able to do a little tour of the house and doing sort of a search for Santa. And then they ended up down in the actual cellars, and Santa was waiting for them and in front of a big roaring fire and all of that sort of thing. Very, very authentic altogether.
Behind this building then is the stable blocks, and the stable blocks are also thought to date from the 1740s. But inside the stable blocks, the roof structure appears to be of an earlier form of roof construction. That may have been from the earlier house on this site. So we know there was a house on this site from the time of the plantation. This was a goldsmith's proportion.
To my right here, very nice little cottage. That was called the Coachmans House, and the door that you see to the left-hand side there, that's where the old coach would have been stored in there, right beside the Coachman's House.
So under the coach house is what's thought to be an ice house. So you go down one side of the coach house and you enter that from the outside, and inside that is a vaulted room. So the idea of an ice house is where you would have packed up your ice, put in fish or other things, perishables, and then packed it up with ice, and that would have then kept you through the winter, butter and things like that.
That's referred to as the old barn at the moment, that particular building. And we reckon that actually that may have been an actual dwelling at a time. That dates back to 1622. And to the right of that then we have the actual stables. That's where my grandfather, when he worked for the Knoxes at the turn of the 19th, 20th century, he would have worked with the horses in those stables.
Well, sadly, with the passing of Colin Peck, who was a very close friend of mine over the years, the house lay empty for a couple of years. And from a security point of view, the estate, if you like, we needed someone to come and keep the place secure, keep it warm, keep it aired, keep it loved. And I do that with gratitude. I love living here. It's an absolute privilege. My connection with Prehen House started back in 2012 when I was cast to play the role of Andrew Knox, who happened to build this beautiful house way back in 1739. A play called The Wood of the Crows. I played Andrew, and the play was essentially around the story of half-hanged Macnaughton. And I fell in love with the house. The moment I walked across the front door threshold, I fell in love with the place, never thinking for a moment that all these years later I would be living here and calling it my home.